All right, today we're cracking open the Analyst Toolbox to talk about something called structured analysis.
You know that feeling, right? You're trying to explain some really complex process, and you just end up making it worse. You get these blank stares, and suddenly there are more questions than when you started. It's a mess.
Well, that exact mess is what structured analysis is built to fix. Seriously, think of it as a way to untangle all that complexity, logically. It's all about using visual tools to break a system down into bite-sized, understandable parts. You start with this huge bird's eye view and then zoom all the way into the nitty-gritty details.
So here's what we've got on tap. First, we're going to tame that complexity by creating what I call a system blueprint. Then we'll solve a publisher's puzzle using these tools. We'll figure out how to choose the right tool for the job. And finally, we'll talk about why any of this structure really matters in the first place.
Okay, let's dive right in. First things first, the system blueprint. I mean, it's simple, right? Before you can fix or build anything, you've got to understand how it works. You need a map, a clear map that shows exactly how information is moving around.
And you know, any good map needs two key things, right? The map itself and a legend that tells you what all the symbols mean. Well, in our world, the map is something called a data flow diagram, or DFD for short. It shows how information moves. And the legend? That's our data dictionary. It tells us what every single piece of that information actually is. You can't have one without the other. They're the perfect team.
So this DFD, it's our visual guide. You might even hear people call it a bubble chart, and honestly, that's pretty much what it is. A bunch of bubbles connected by lines. The bubbles, those are the processes where stuff happens and data gets changed. The lines, that's the data flowing between them. It sounds simple, but wow, it is such a powerful way to see an entire system in one shot.
Okay, let's break down the symbols you'll see on this map. There are just four main ones. First up, the square. A square represents anything outside your system. Think of it as a source or a destination for data. It could be a customer, placing an order, or maybe another department sending you a report. Anything that's not part of the system itself.
Next, you've got the arrow. This one's super easy. It's just the data flow, the data in motion. It's like a pipe that shows you exactly where the information is going. From a person, into a process, into storage, whatever. It's the path.
Now for the real heart of the DFD, the circle, or, the bubble. This is a process. This is where the magic happens, where the work gets done. It takes data in, does something to it, and spits new data out. So a process bubble might be labeled Calculate Invoice or Verify Credit Score.
And the last symbol is the open rectangle. This is a data store. So if the arrow is data moving, this is data sitting still, data at rest. It's basically a holding tank for information. Think of a database of customers or a list of products and inventory. It's where the system stores stuff it needs to remember.
Okay, so now we have our map with all its symbols. But let's say you see an arrow labeled Customer Order. What does that actually mean? Is it the customer's name, their ID, the shipping address, all of it? See, that's where the legend, the data dictionary, is absolutely crucial. It defines every single thing on that map, so there's no confusion. Everyone from the tech folks to the business users is on the same page. No more guessing games.
All right, so that's mapping the flow of info. Let's switch gears a bit. Now we're going to look at how these tools can help us solve really tricky logic puzzles. And to do that, we've got a great real-world example from a book publisher.
Just look at this. This is their discount policy, written out in a paragraph. It's a total mess, right? It's dense, confusing. It's just a wall of text with conditions buried inside other conditions. Can you imagine trying to code this or train a new employee on it? You'd be pulling your hair out. It's just begging for mistakes to be made. So how do we fix this?
Well, here's our first tool to the rescue, Structured English. All it does is take that nightmare paragraph and translate it into simple, clean logic. We just use basic words like if, then, and else. And boom, just like that, it's crystal clear. If the customer's a bookstore, then do this. Else, you've got a different set of rules. It becomes a super precise step-by-step guide.
Okay, so structured English is great for listing out the steps. But what if the order you ask the questions really matters? For that kind of problem, we need something more visual. And that's where our next tool comes in, the decision tree.
Think of a decision tree like a flowchart for logic. You start at the top with a big question, like, is this a bookstore? Your answer, yes or no, sends you down a specific path or branch to the next question, and so on, until you get to the final answer. The table you're looking at here is basically a summary of all those different paths you could take and where you'd end up.
But what if things aren't so sequential? What if you have a bunch of different conditions, and the final action depends on a specific combination of them? For that kind of complexity, we need the heavyweight champ of logic tools, the decision table. It's basically a matrix that handles really complex rules. Look at how clean this is. The top part lists all the conditions. Is it a bookstore? Is the order over 50 copies? And so on. The bottom part lists all the possible actions. Give a 25% discount, give a 10% discount. Then each column is a single, unique rule. It says if this combination of conditions is true, then take this one specific action. It's so precise, there's literally no way to get it wrong.
Okay, so we've just seen a bunch of really cool, powerful tools. But being an expert isn't just about having the tools, it's knowing when to use each one. And that's our next big topic, the pro tip on choosing the right tool for the job.
In this chart right here is your cheat sheet. It's pretty straightforward. Need a big picture view? Grab a DFD. Need to get specific about what your data means? That's the data dictionary. Got a process with a ton of steps and loops? Use structured English. If the order of questions is key, go for a decision tree. And if you've got a tangled mess of conditions, the decision table is your best friend. It really is just about matching the tool to the problem.
So, we've looked at all these diagrams, tables, and rules, which brings us to the big final question. Why? Why does all this structure actually matter? Because at the end of the day, the real magic here isn't about making fancy documents that just sit on a shelf. It's about one thing, communication. These tools create a common language. They build a bridge between the people who have the business problem and the people who have to build the technical solution. Without that bridge, you get misunderstandings, projects go off the rails, and money gets wasted. This is how you make sure everyone is on the exact same page, building the right thing from the very start.
Really, it all boils down to this. Structured analysis turns confusion into clarity. It makes complicated things simple. So I'll leave you with this question. The next time you're staring down a really complex, tangled-up problem, which one of these tools are you going to reach for first?